love for you to share, briefly some of your personal body story with us.
Sure. Yeah, I will. And it feels great to be able to share this. And also, as I reflect on it and where I am on my journey now with my body as to where I was before, I have so much gratitude for where I am and where I've come. And I just want to say too to anyone listening that if you're resonating with where I was in my body story, that I just want you to know that it can totally change and that there's other possibilities beyond that. And if my story is helpful in some way, that's really what I would, I hope to do. But basically, my body story was all about focusing on the outside for self-validation, for self-love, for self-worth. And there was also distrust with my body. I am a sexual abuse thriver, and so going through that experience when I was younger really had me be in a space where I didn't trust my body. It responded in ways that I didn't feel it should have. I felt guilty. I felt shame around that. So that created this distrust from an early age. And then as I went out in the world and got programmed with all of the conditioning that's out there on the messages that we receive about what a successful body would be, focusing on my weight, focusing on my looks, and so that I was always looking outside externally.
And it's easy to do that because we have so many factors bombarding us constantly, don't we?
Yeah.
Especially when we're vulnerable.
Yes, yes, and I don't blame myself for that. It was just, and if anyone is in that space, there's no blame or judgment there. It's really so prevalent. And when we're plugged into all of those messages, which this is about unplugging from that, when you're plugged into that, that's what you feel is true. And that's the way you show up in life. So anyway, that was my focus. Like, how can I get my body to, look the way that it's supposed to look so I can feel good about myself? And I did the crazy diets and spent a lot of energy and time worried about what other people thought about how I looked. And as I got older, I discovered that I could have some control with my body. Like, I could change how I was eating. I could change like moving my body. And I actually became successful with mainstream's thought on what your body should look like. And so that worked for me for a while. Like, I lost weight. Everybody would compliment me on my physique. How are you doing it? All that stuff, right? But what happened was, it was about 9 years ago. I remember this just so clearly. I was in the bathroom. I had just gotten on the scale again. Totally micromanaging my body, right? Like, if I didn't exercise one day, I would totally freak out. I had this concept that if I didn't worry about my weight and about how my body looked all the time, then it would just get out of control. And that goes back to that lack of trust with my body, that I talked about before. And it was really bad. Like, I had exercise bulimia, I guess you would call it, where I just felt like I couldn't miss a day.
Yeah.
And I injured myself. I almost completely tore my plantar fasciitis. So I had plantar fasciitis, this tendon that was in my foot, and I could not give up running. I was running at the time, and so I would run through the pain. I would run through the injury, and the doctor that I was seeing at the time said, "Oh, let's just have a cortisone shot and it'll be all better." And I was like, "Oh, great, because then I can still run." I couldn't stand the idea of not running. And this injury went on for 8 months, and I almost completely tore it, and finally had to put a cast on my foot. But that gives you an idea of where I was mentally. So on the outside, oh yeah, it looked great. I was thin, I was fit. But on the inside, I was tormented by this thought that if I didn't work out one day and if I didn't really micromanage my body, it was just going to be a disaster. So anyway, getting back to that time in the bathroom that that day, there was a lot of other things going on. I was really at a crossroads in my life, and my body and my relationship with my body was part of it, because how I feel like how you do one thing is typically how you do a lot of other things in your life.
Yes.
All about the control, and the micromanaging. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. How much longer can I keep this up? I can't do this anymore. And what would happen if I gave up this incessant worry about my body and feeling like I had to work out every day and I had to weigh a certain weight to feel good about myself? And I said, it's too much. I can't do it anymore. What else is possible? And I didn't realize it at the time, but that question, what else is possible? Like, is there something possible for me in my body and how I feel about myself? Can I be at peace? That was the beginning of opening up a whole new world for me, a whole new way of thinking about my body, perceiving my body, being with my body. And you shared, I dove into somatic movement, into body awareness. That led to energy healing, and what I found was that my body wasn't the problem. It was how I was perceiving my body, and that I was really asking my body to make me feel good about myself, and that's not my body's job. my body's job is to allow me to function on Earth, and is supported by me allowing her to do her job, which is to stay in balance. And it's not to make me feel good about myself. And that was just a huge aha. And when I had that, this awareness, it didn't come overnight. I mean, this has been years of exploration and trying all different kinds of things. But yeah, it's returned me back to this knowing that I'm much more than my body, and my body is an integral part of my experience here.
Yeah, because do you think in that time, like when you think back, it sounds to me based on what you were saying that maybe there was a disconnect.
Oh,
it's like
totally.
Your inside and your outside was disconnected with that.
Yeah, well, I was very connected in focusing on my body, but it was coming from an external I was focused on it based on what other people were telling me it should be. And also, I was very much in my head. I was not connected to what I was sensing in my body, aware of energy at all. I am creative visionary, and I love being in my head, and was not grounded in my body. Although I will say that the exercise was very supportive in grounding me in this physical reality, and I was very successful in manifesting things in my life, but it was from this space of ultra control.
Right.
I was disconnected from how I could work with my body.
And this whole notion of control, and we've talked a little bit about this before, that's why I want to bring it up a little bit. It sounds like you were very much, as far as your exercise routine and the control factor and all of this and the discipline, you were very much living maybe in your masculine?
Absolutely. Totally. And, that's really very prevalent in our society right now. That is how you get things done, Yeah. I'm going to get it done, and I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah. Checking things off my list, and yeah.
Yeah, and it worked to a point, but what really happened was my body was on adrenal overload. When I really tapped into what I was experiencing in my body, I noticed how I would push through the pain when I was exercising, like, oh, just get into the like, I didn't even think I'd
get over it.
Yeah, just get over it,
Yeah. So I love this that you had that day where you said, where you asked that question. It sounds like you got like a divine download, as they say, right? You got a mega hit when, the what else is possible.